Witam serdecznie. Ja sobie pozwolę tutaj udostępnić wideo, oglądając je samemu, właśnie Benjamina Fulforda, który tam reprezentuje właśnie to Stowarzyszenie Białych Smoków. Może nie będę tutaj mówił dokładnie. O nim się dowiedziałem w ogóle z kanału Fab News, także zapraszam w ogóle, żeby sobie każdy subskrybował. Ja udostępnię ten kanał, natomiast no ten filmik to mnie wyjątkowo interesuje, więc sobie pozwolę udostępnić u siebie i też oglądnąć. Dużo osób mi tu podsyła różne rzeczy, prawda, z jakichś federacji galaktycznych i tak dalej. Całkiem możliwe, że to jest prawda, być może, nie wiem, ale po prostu ja nie mam przekonania co do tego, ale odnośnie tego pana Fulforda to jest, powiedzmy, że jedna z nielicznych osób, której jakoś przynajmniej minimalnie ufam. No ufam mu jak na razie. To jest też narodowości żydowskiej człowiek, który z Polski chyba w ogóle emigrował do Japonii, co nie jest dziwne zresztą, dlatego że nagrywaliśmy tutaj na kanale w ogóle, nagrywałem odnośnie Japonii i samurajów, że oni byli naszych rysów w ogóle. Także to byli jedni z nas, tylko później dokonano, jak na całym świecie, Holokaustu, no nie inaczej, naszej rasy i zastąpiono innymi, więc dokonano takiej inżynierii społecznej i eugeniki, ale to już nie o tym jest temat. W każdym razie to jest dość interesująca osoba i w całym tym pseudo-świecie polityki w miarę wiarygodna, więc to jest jakieś źródło informacji na temat tego, co się dzieje w Stanach, więc nie będę tutaj już przedłużał, po prostu włączam to dla siebie i dla was, zobaczymy, co tutaj oni uważają, te Białe Smoki. To jest tajne stowarzyszenie, które jest w kontakcie z innymi stowarzyszeniami i zamierza tą sytuację trochę wyczyścić, tak deklaruje przynajmniej, na to też wygląda, która jest na świecie, przede wszystkim są przeciwko Międzynarodowemu Funduszowi Walutowemu, czyli przeciwko syjonizmowi, krótko mówiąc, potężnym siłom i są w konflikcie z nimi, byli przynajmniej, teraz nie wiem jakie tam są między nimi rozmowy, no i też on ma dużo informacji od różnych ludzi, którzy są przeciwko kabale, nazwijmy to tak umownie, czyli dostaje dokumenty z CIA, FSB, różnych służb, więc jest dobrze poinformowany, więc no myślę, że warto posłuchać czasami, także zaczynamy.
And we are with Benjamin Fulford today in Tokyo.
It's November 6th, 2020.
And we want to talk about elections, of course.
Okay, well, here's my understanding of the US elections. Now, first of all, there's obvious provable fraud and crime going on the industrial scale. And it's pretty clear that the world wants neither a proven criminal who's accepted bribes from China and the Ukraine and other places, Joe Biden, nor do they want Donald Trump, who has, basically ruined the U.S. position in the world, even though he says he wants to make America great again. And he's been accused publicly of raping children, and he has not sued the accusers for slander, which if someone made an accusation like that against me, I would sue them because I would know it's not true and they would have to pay me money for making false claims, but he doesn't do that. So what's happening is there's a discussion that's going on between different secret societies about what to do. And one proposal that we're discussing seriously now is to have the military intervene because of the widespread dysfunction and fraud seen in the U.S. election. At the same time, we have a fraudulent prime minister in Canada, Justin Castro, who most likely murdered his brother and who basically tried to suspend democracy because he was facing corruption trials. So we have a crisis of democracy in both Canada and the United States. So what we're suggesting is we have the military of Canada and the United States intervene and set up a Republic of the United States of North America. And as an interim president, a name being put forward is Robert David Steele. I've met him, and I can say this about him. He is smart, he's honest, he's got some ego issues, but don't we all? And he doesn't have, he's not rich. He hasn't been bribed. He lives off his, government pension, basically. So he's not being bought out. And Cynthia McKinney would be his vice president. And this would, the setting up of a Republic of the United States of North America would be a first step towards, solidifying the West's leadership so that we can negotiate with Asia a new structure to replace what has been put in after World War II, which is an entirely U.S.-centric and U.S.-dominated IMF, World Bank, UN, etc. These institutions need to be reformed so that they better fit the balance of the world's population and the balance of the world's economic output. In other words, they're out of date and they can't just be, fiddled with. We need a complete revamp. Now, the other thing we're proposing is setting up a future planning agency, which would, plan big things for the planet as a whole, like turning the deserts green, replenishing the oceans with fish, exploring the universe. And such an institution to really, end poverty and stop environmental destruction would need a budget of about $1 trillion a year, which we're hoping to get from either the Golden Dragon family or the Vatican, bank, who were the secret controllers of the current system involving the UN, etc. So either one of these sources could do it. But the point is that we are facing a planetary emergency. We are wiping out species at a rate not seen since the dinosaurs were wiped out 65 million years ago. And it's entirely caused by incompetent human management of the planet. And people like Trump have offered zero solutions to such problems. So, and we don't want a criminal Biden either, because look, it's verboten. Okay, the man is a criminal. He should not be in the president's seat. That's why we're working on this, and we hope to have more public announcements in the coming days. But the crisis in the U.S., the stalemate has been engineered partly to, help initiate real reform and a real restoration of democracy in both the United States and Canada. Because clearly the system is now dysfunctional and only the military can come in and restore real democracy and order at this point. So we're asking them to help us.
You said that Donald Trump has been accused of sleeping with children, child molesting.
Well,
why hasn't he sued?
That's the point. You see, there's a subscription newsletter called the Wayne Madsen Report, and then it was taken up in places like Veterans Today, that Trump has paid millions of dollars to cover up sexual assaults against children, both male and female, ranging in ages from like 11 to 13. And if this was not true, he should be suing. Now, the other thing about Trump is that his son-in-law is Jared Kushner, who's a member of the Chabad cult that wants to start a war between Gog and Magog, kill 90% of humanity, and enslave the rest. All right? The man is not the answer to the problems facing the United States. He's had 4 years, and I'm sorry, but it hasn't worked, okay? You can't fix something that's broken. We need to reboot the system.
We heard the gossips on the portals of alternative media that there is a quantum financial system put in place from 1st of November. And the first country was Canada, and Canada is on quantum system now, and Justin Trudeau is under control. Have you heard about it?
I don't know about quantum financial system in Canada, but I do know that there has been a complete revamp of the financial architecture. For example, I can take a card from a foreign bank now, and I can go to any Japanese convenience store and get money out. Whereas before, I could only go to basically Citibank branches in Tokyo to do that. So, and the banks have told me that when they send money overseas, they don't have to go through Citibank or Bank of America anymore. They can do it directly. Furthermore, if you go to a Japanese 7-Eleven, you can see that you can also do cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin on the convenience store ATM. So clearly, the architecture has been revamped. The problem is that we still don't see who's in charge, and I understand that the people who are now in charge have illegally taken the system from its creator, and we're going to have to force them to put it under the control of the man who actually created the system. And you guys know who it is, and we know who you are. So, either you hand it over or we come and get you. Because that's a crime. And crime must not go unpunished.
In your last article on your website, benjaminfulford.net, I could read that Chinese secret societies are waiting for re-election of Trump, and they want to see what happens next in the West after re-election of Trump. So it sounded like they expect re-election of Trump.
Well, here's the situation. The U.S. military made sure that the Supreme Court was controlled by the people behind Trump, so that when the legal cases, about this contested election go to court, they end up finally at the Supreme Court, where they will rule in favor of Trump. And there can be no doubt whatsoever that all these reported votes for Biden are fraud, and it's going to be proven. They put in these secret watermarks on real ballots, so they will be able to detect all the fake ballots. And I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to go to jail for this. And I expect that the presidents of the large media and telecommunications corporations will be arrested over this fraud. However, that does not mean we want Trump for another 4 years. We need something different, fundamentally different. That's why we're pushing for United States of North America, a jubilee, which means a complete write-off of all debt, and a redistribution of assets. It's a one-off deal, and a future planning agency to plan what sort of planet we want 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. In other words, humanity must take control of its own future, its own dreams, its own wishes for how we want this planet to be in the future. We must take control of our own destiny away from these hidden slave masters who have controlled us via their control of the financial system as well as military enforcement mechanisms.
Since we are in Japan, who would Japanese people vote for? And also, I've seen in China, people are pretty much in favor of Trump. Also, there were some demonstrations in Nigeria yesterday or 2 days ago. So despite that he's being described as a racist, in Nigeria they're supporting Trump. They have those parades of Nigerian people. I believe in other African countries it may be happening as well. So what do the Japanese think? Do they think he's a racist? And
no,
Chinese,
they don't think he's a racist. I think the Japanese think that the United States has become dysfunctional, and the media is trying to push Biden, and a lot of people support Trump. But again, the high-level people realize that it's got to be neither of them.
Okay. How about China?
China is the same. The people behind Biden offered them the United States of China. In other words, they offered them control over Japan, ASEAN, etc. if they supported Biden. Of course, they're going to say, yeah, if you give us Japan and ASEAN and stuff and make the United States of China, sure, we'll support you. But that's not going to happen because the West will not allow it, and it will mean war. But it doesn't mean that Trump is a better alternative because he hasn't been able to, really fix anything. I'm sorry, but the man had his chance and he blew it.
I heard someone say that if Trump wins, there will be a war with China.
No,
What do
there
you
won't
think
be
about it?
there won't be a war with China because the people at the Pentagon, they do these simulations, right, of war. They have these supercomputers, and they have one team pretending to be China and one team pretending to be the United States, and they fight, and they try different scenarios. It always ends up in the same place. At the end of the day, there's nuclear war, 90% of humanity dies, and the northern hemisphere becomes uninhabitable. That's why there's not going to be a war. This is not something we can solve through war. It's a sort of a Mexican standoff, where each pointing guns at each other. So it's, you can't shoot each other. That's not the solution. So we have to talk, and that takes time, but we're getting there. And the Chinese have said, all right, the West needs to fix its situation by March. They're losing patience. But my advice to the Chinese is that you don't need to lose patience because time is on your side. You have a system now that it's giving you fast economic growth. So it's just, the more time passes, the stronger you get. It's the West that doesn't have time, and it's the West that needs to reform before we become overwhelmed by China. And that means taking some of the best aspects of industrial policy, such as seen in Singapore and China, and applying it to the West, so that the West starts to grow at least as fast as, if not faster than, China and Asia. It's the only way.
I have one final question about China and Biden. Biden's crimes are portrayed as him working with Chinese government,
he accepted
communist government of China. So he is linked to communist regime, and
look, he accepted a bribe from a foreign country to betray his own country. So the man is a traitor. That's the bottom line. Traitors need to be executed. I'm sorry, but that's how I look at it.
I agree. But what political power was collaborating with Biden?
This would be the families that own the Fortune 500 companies. That would be the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. These people, they're the ones who, supported Trump as a kind of controlled opposition to get everybody's hopes up and divert people's attention from real change and real reform, which involves taking control of the process of creating and distributing money from hidden inbred families and giving it to the public at large, run in a transparent manner, which is what we propose for the Future Planning Agency.
Okay, so the proposal from your standpoint is that we have Future Planning Agency.
Future Planning Agency, the United States of North America, and then a revamp of the UN and all the other international architecture, so that it's more accurately reflects the real, population of the planet. So basically, more power has to go to places like India, Africa, Asia, and the West needs to become stronger than before while sharing the planet more fairly with everybody else.
Is there any realistic plan, like what political powers can support such agency?
Well, we're talking with very high level people, like the people who control the P3 Freemasons. They control the Vatican, which controls the UN and the World Bank and all this kind of stuff. And we're in touch with the British Royals, the British Commonwealth, which is like 2.3 billion people. United in friendship and mutual benefit. And then we got the Asian secret societies. They agree that we need to change how we run the planet and do big stuff. So we have a lot of support, and now it's a question of getting from A to B. And the first step, I think, it would be to have the military come in, announce that democracy has been hijacked by crime groups in Canada and the United States, set up an interim United States of North America with Robert David Steele or someone like him as the interim president, and then negotiate the other stuff with Asia once the West is unified.
Okay.
I would like to ask you, you mentioned Justin Trudeau Castro, that he killed his brother.
Okay, here's what we know.
Elaborate on it
Sure.
a bit?
There are pictures of Trudeau's mother, Margaret Sinclair, with Castro holding the young baby Justin, and it looks like he's looking at his own son. And she was in Cuba at the right time to be impregnated there. The other thing is that if you look at pictures of Justin Trudeau, they look literally almost identical to the young Castro. Or there's a letter from Castro's son saying he didn't succeed as much as his brother Justin because he wasn't in Canada. And then we have Justin, he went on a hiking trip with his brother, Michael Trudeau, and only Justin came back. They never found the body. He said he died in an avalanche, but I'm pretty sure that he eliminated his brother to make sure there was no competition for him when he went for the job of prime minister. So the man is the other thing is that as soon as he became prime minister, he overturned decades of Canadian diplomacy by becoming a radical Zionist and also supporting, criminal regimes in the Ukraine. So the man's actions show that he's a Manchurian candidate, that he doesn't work for Canada. He has foreign masters. And when he faced the corruption investigation in Canada, he tried to shut down democracy with this fake pandemic and martial law. The Canadian military isn't stupid. They're not going to let this go on.
Do you know anything about Europe, like European Union? Why they are adding a second wave, third wave restrictions and fascist regime in Europe?
There's two forces using this pandemic. One force is using it to try to create and stay in power and create a fascist regime. Another group is using the COVID as an excuse for a purge. In other words, they're killing a lot of people and saying they died of COVID-19 as part of a power struggle. So there's a battle going on in Europe. We're seeing what was going to be the end of a fourth German Nazi Reich, which we knew of as the EU. And it's going to be replaced by a new structure of European democracies. I believe it contains 47 countries, including Russia. So Russia is going to be, brought into the European architecture as an equal partner, and this German pseudo-Nazi EU project is going to be replaced by a bigger, looser European Union. That's my understanding.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you because, just like you said, that we have second wave of pandemic in Europe, and perhaps there will be a third wave, and Nazism. But what I want to ask you, like, compared to Japan, we never had a second wave. We never
That's
had
because
a third wave.
Yeah, well, Japan's no longer going along with this fake scenario. Neither is China. They realize it's fake, and they've stopped playing it. In Europe, I was told they're going to keep this sort of pandemic BS going on until late next year. That's their plan, okay? But that's not our plan.
What's the purpose of that?
It's kind of like, they say it's like an initiation ceremony to let people know that things are different, and it's to prepare the psychology for big political changes. That's my understanding.
All right.
But there is a group that has an agenda where they want to stay in control by vaccinating us with RFID chips that allow people to read their information at a distance, and to tie that with a digital currency. In other words, there is a group that's trying to use this certificate of vaccine ID, COVID, as a way to, maintain control. And we're not going to let that happen. If they try to vaccinate people with RFID chips, we will kill anybody involved starting with the top leadership. Okay, so if you're the president of a pharmaceutical company and you're preparing to inject nano RFID chips into people, you will be hunted down and you will be killed.
Good.
Great.
Okay?
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
No, także ja tutaj muszę powiedzieć, z jego myśleniem to ciężko się nie zgodzić. Bardzo zdrowe myślenie i to też nie jest gość, który jest nikim, bo faktycznie jednak mają coś do powiedzenia i bardzo dobre słowa na końcu powiedział i ogólnie o tym syjonizmie, prawda, więc pozostaje mieć nadzieję, że zostaną kryminaliści, przestępcy, syjoniści właśnie, którzy w Polsce rządzą, też skazani, kiedyś na to liczę, jak najbardziej. Więc jeżeli wyjdziemy z tego kiedyś, to od tego trzeba będzie zacząć, żeby ich wszystkich po prostu zamknąć, oczywiście zgodnie z prawem. Niech zaczną w Stanach, a potem niech się to rozleje, bo jak się kogokolwiek winnego zostawi, na przykład polskie władze, no to nie będzie nigdy normalnej sytuacji, więc naprawę to na pewno trzeba zacząć od przede wszystkim no, wymierzenia kar winnym, bo to na całym świecie zaszło, więc jeżeli oni myślą globalnie, a widać, że myślą, to muszą to brać pod uwagę na pewno. Także tyle. Myślę, że ciekawa wypowiedź. Mam nadzieję, że się podobało. Pozdrawiam serdecznie. Łapka w górę. Hej.